Super Cool Radio.
Hey everyone, before we jump into the show, I want to tell you about our merch store on Threadless. Shop a wide variety of logos with multiple colors and sizes available for each design. Your support is greatly appreciated and helps us continue to make killer content like this episode. Please visit supercoolradio.threadless.com or the link in the description to shop now. Hello everyone, I am Matthew Thomas. This is Super Cool Radio. I got a very special guest for this episode. Going to change things up a little bit. You should be familiar with him because he had me on his show back last year. Now we're going to flip the script a little bit. He is back on my show. Please welcome the host of Krash Kourse Metal Show on YouTube. He is Trevor Krash Knight.
What is going on, Matt? Thank you very much for having me on the show, and I'm excited to talk Wildstreet. Just as a little, if people aren't aware of what I do have a YouTube channel, just like Super Cool Radio here. We do some of the similar things. I go more into like the reaction videos or album reviews, like such what we're doing here. I bring different guests on, have interviews, but as we all know, Super Cool Radio, no one can beat Super Cool Radio when it comes to interviews. Having one almost every day, it feels like. So thank you again for having me on, brother.
Of course, I'm going to leave some links for the Krash Kourse Metal Show in the description. Thank you so much for the kind words. I have a lot of respect for what you do. As you said, you do more like the music reviews, reactions. You got some fun videos on there, plus some killer interviews as well with some guests. If anyone is familiar with Super Cool Radio, they will be familiar with some of the guests in your show as well.
Yep, sounds right. Sounds about right, my man.
And yeah, I do about only like 3 to 4 interviews a week. Not too bad.
Oh man, yeah, that average is getting pumped up here now in season. What season is this for you now?
This is season 4 for Super Cool Radio.
Yeah, we're expecting greater things for season 4, season 5, season 6, and so on. All right.
Hey, the bar's been set. I know. Like I got some cool things in the works, and maybe some cool guests here that I can't disclose just yet. But we'll see. You'll see. Everyone will see.
All right.
But right now, before we get off on tangent of how cool our shows are, as you mentioned, so we're gonna do a really cool review, very similar to if anyone watched the shows that we've did together for your channel. We're going to do a track-by-track review of Wildstreet, the first Wildstreet album, as you see I have right here, and so do you, and both of them are signed. That is badass. So obviously we're huge fans of Wildstreet. We've seen them obviously in concert before. So for this first album, it was released back in, let me get my notes real quick. Back
2009, I believe, correct?
Thank you. Yep, I did not write that in my notes for some reason, but yes, it was released back in 2009, over 10 years ago. And we'll give our thoughts, what we like, what we enjoyed, and we'll break down the songs and see what people think, and hopefully everyone enjoys.
Yeah, of course. So first things first, we will give the lineup here just to throw it out here because it does change from album to album pretty much, at least a little bit. So I have here Eric Jake, obviously, is vocalist and does a lot of the producing, such as writing and everything. Jimmy Marlowe does guitars. Ali Hassan is on the bass. You got Keith Robert on guitar, and then you got Beck on the drums. So very good lineup, though. I mean, I'm not 100% sure what the lineup was for Wildstreet 2, which we will get into that in another episode. But yeah, you ready to go for the track listings here?
I will. I want to add one more thing before we jump into this album. Eric Jake talked in my interview when I did with him last year. He did mention that Wildstreet 1, he thought it was a little too overproduced. That was his terms he used. I can kind of understand that, but also at the same time, this album sounds very super clean to me. I think it's very enjoyable.
I agree. I agree 100% with that. I could see his maybe complaint as far as overproduced, but for me, I don't think it hurts the record as far as being saying overproduced. I'm with you. I think it sounds really good. I think it's more of a positive than it is a negative.
Oh, I definitely agree. And before we get into the track listing, just real quick on that, because I mean, there's definitely some albums that you can tell that they're overproduced. There's a lot of layers to this, and the music gets lost. But I think with the first Wildstreet album, I don't think that is too much of an issue, as you said. You know, it's more of a positive than a takeaway from the album.
I agree. Yep, 100% with that take.
All right, so the first track on Wildstreet 1 is "Wanna Get It On." Would you like me to start with this, or would you like to? You're the guest.
I might have a lot to say so on this track. If you want to go first, you can go first.
I'll lead. It is my show. How about I'll lead with the tracks, and we'll get your thoughts after mine. How about that?
Works.
Very good. As I told you before we started, so this is my old notebook I had from back when season 1 of Super Cool Radio. I used to do a lot of album reviews, so I dusted this out. I busted it out for this show that we're doing. So, "Want to Get It On." I gotta say, this is just a super solid song. It is a hard-hitting rock song. It's also, I'm going to say this a lot probably for most Wildstreet songs, because they do have that formula where these songs are very catchy. You can you can pick up the lyrics pretty much halfway through a song. And I think that just shows how good of a songwriter Eric is, that he can get those catchy hooks in there and change it up for every song. Mm-hmm. So especially with "Want to Get It On," again, it's a very solid rock song. I like the kind of gang or crowd vocals that are, as you picked up as well with each of these songs, because it gives another layer to the song. But also, it's super great for if whenever they perform these songs live, that you get the crowd into it very easily. So I think this is a kick-ass opening song and a perfect intro to Wildstreet.
That's actually a good. I didn't necessarily think of it in those words as an introduction to Wildstreet. This is the first song ever, you could say, of Wildstreet that we've seen or heard, and this hands down is my favorite Wildstreet song. This is on the Saturday Night Party CD that I always go out and hit the town with. This song's always on the playlist, always on the CD. Doesn't matter. This song is a staple of my last 5 years. So it's so, like you said, it is very catchy. Eric Jake does have those just good lyrics. This is, like you said, a very good live setting song, which there are a couple other songs that on Wildstreet 1 and on Wildstreet 2 that get brought up to 11, if you will, when it goes live. So, and this is certainly one of them. One of my favorites. I absolutely love the solo in this song. Man, probably one of the best solos that they recorded on any of their albums. So, and man, so much Def Leppard to this song. I mean, you could argue pretty much for the record, like just somewhere in between Hysteria and Adrenalize for Def Leppard albums. That's what this song sounds like. It came from 87 to 90. You could have picked it out of any one of those years, and this is what it would be. Just a masterpiece of a song for Eric Jake and Wildstreet for me. So that's pretty much. I'm sure I have a lot more to say about this song, but as of right now, that's pretty much all I got to say.
That is a very good kind of analysis with Def Leppard, because now that, like, once you said that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because it has it's not, obviously it's not Def Leppard, what I mean, but it has that kind of flair to it, if that makes any sense.
So if I'll draw another Def Leppard comparison here with this song. What this song sounds like, even on the record and live, is a little bit like, it doesn't sound like Pour Some Sugar on Me, but it's like that live anthem that everyone can sing along to. Everyone, it's easy to pick up the lyrics, like you said. So it's just like that perfect. I said, like, we've seen Wildstreet plenty of times. I've seen them at least 5 times now. There was one time where they didn't play it live, and I was very upset. And every time I see Eric, I'm like, "Are you doing? Want to get it on? Are you doing? Want to get it on?" And man, every time they do it, it's just beautiful, and everyone just chants along with it. It's just like I said, a masterpiece of a song. So
I 100% agree with that. And I've only got to see Wildstreet twice so far, and actually I haven't seen them in over a year. So hopefully I do get that opportunity soon, because they are phenomenal live. And anyone, if you haven't seen Wildstreet live, you are truly missing out.
Yes, yeah, definitely not a dud in the set list. We'll say that there is not one bad song in the set list. You'll be singing the whole night. So that's very good live. I agree.
For sure. Now, for the second track on the first Wildstreet album, it is Hard on You. To me, what I really notice is, like, with this song is, like, it's got a very solid beat to it. It's really good, and it really sets the tone for the song very well. You know, it still has, you know, these songs are going to all be in, like, the similar style, but there's always a little bit of flair and difference between each song. And I think that's what separates them all, for it doesn't just sound like copy paste of the same song. And I think that's kind of the magic of Wildstreet, is sounding similar for people to understand it, but at the same time using some different techniques and styles to make them stand out that much more. Killer guitar riff, and again with the chorus, and most of the choruses on this album, it's got those crowd vocals, and again helps out so much if they perform this song live, because it's already builds in that people in their mind that people should be singing along during the chorus, because that's what it sounds like on this album. And what I did like, kind of like the little bit of the story with it. To me, my interpretation of it, it's like you see this girl and you just can't get her out of your mind. It kind of drives you crazy a little bit. So right. I've been there, can totally relate, and that's why I really dig Hard on You.
Hey, I have to say, I like that analysis of it, because I got pretty much the same analysis. It's probably my second favorite song on the album. Like, this is a beautiful 1-2 punch off the album here. When I first bought this probably like 10 years ago, I'm like, I only knew about 1 or 2 Wildstreet singles at that time. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, just the first 2 tracks is just so cool. I had this song as my alarm for about 6 months, like a couple years ago. So like every day I woke up, this song was playing in my ears. Like, that's how good this song is. But man, like you said, I like the guitar work. This would have been a very good it has like that single sound and tempo to the song, and just like that catchiness of it. This could have easily been a first or second single off the album, I think, and it would have done pretty well. I do wonder why this might have not have made it as a single. Like, maybe why did they go with Soldier of Love as like a video single instead? Or, you know, that was always something I did want to ask Eric, but I mean, we'll just have to figure it out ourselves until we do get an answer. But yeah, no, Hard on You is absolutely great. Not just a tad under Want to Get It On, just because of the sheer epicness that I Want to Get It On is. But yeah, very, very good second track. So for me, and man, we're talking about these first 2 tracks. I mean, we might not even talk about the rest. I don't know. That's like, where do you go from here? Where do you go from the first 2 tracks? But yeah, we have plenty of good to say about the rest of the album, though.
Oh, we definitely do, and I know we're just getting started about it, but it just shows, obviously, we very much enjoy Wildstreet, and it is a little interesting, you know, Soldier Love, you know, versus Hard on You, you know, single choice and all that. I can understand, like, Soldier Love got the nod, just because I think it's got slightly, like, more imagery in it. We'll get into talking about it. Just a little quick answer. I'll talk about it more later. But
okay, yeah, we'll do that.
but just I'll just throw that out there for right now. We'll come back in like 20 minutes and finish that. So the third track, slightly different pace for this one. It is For So Long. This song it's a little bit slower, but I mean, it will rock by the end of the song. But it does start out with a little bit of a change of pace. It does pick up pretty quickly. When I say it's like the first minute is slightly slower than the first two songs, so it's not like it's a completely different style of music. Of course, it's rock music. It's got a little bit, to me, like a little bit of a ballad feel, but not as slow. Yep. Like a faster paced ballad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I understand, and I would agree with that. I would classify this as a ballad, maybe not a power ballad so much, but it is. I consider it a ballad. It's probably my favorite ballad because there is one other ballad later on in this album, but I do prefer this over this song. For So Long over the latter song of the ballads here on this album. But yeah, just good songwriting again. I don't want to keep harping on like Hysteria and like Def Leppard and stuff, but it does. You can tell this album they were influenced by Def Leppard, Poison, so on. And it's just. I think it's just a really good nod to their influences, and I think they did a beautiful job at just making it their own though too, because no one really sounds like Eric at the same time. So, and they add different guitar licks in here, and it's just a really good ballad. I mean, I don't really want to compare it to like a song, but it does have, if you love Def Leppard ballads, there's no reason why you wouldn't like this ballad. That's the best way I can sum that up. So, but yeah, very good song for track number 3. So, I mean, the first 3 tracks, man, you can't complain. You can't complain with what they're giving you here. So, that's pretty much what I have to say here for So Long.
I definitely agree with that. I did want to throw in one more influence. I know Eric talked about this briefly in another interview I did with him. Wham was a huge influence for Wildstreet, he said, for the first album. So, which again makes sense, and I think that is why it's so catchy. And they also have those crowd vocals. I think that's why, like, a Wham influence in their music.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good point, and I can totally see that. So, and I think it totally works too. I wish more bands would do a little bit, especially modern bands would do more of that.
I always liked it because it adds another layer to the song, but also, I love, the bands who I love the vocalists as well because it's bands who I really like. But to give a little bit different for people, I think keeps the intrigue a little bit more and kind of saves the vocalist for the rest of the song, so that you don't. You do focus on those parts a little bit more because you're not hearing the vocalist during the whole song.
Exactly, and that's a good point. I agree pretty much 100% with that take. I like that, and I think that's also what helps distinguish Wildstreet as well. Brings like their own flavor and flair, like you said, to their music, and it's great.
Oh, for sure. And now, so we are coming to the 4th track here on the first Wildstreet album. Now, this is Soldier of Love, where I already kind of give a little bit of my take on, so I will now come back and finish it because, again, I totally planned that out because I'm a master of my craft here.
Awesome. Yeah, you're the best. That's why you can do that, man. This is your show. This is your world. We're just living in it, man.
Exactly. And you're my guest here, so you get to see a little bit of how my mind works and go, man, this guy is something. So this song, again, of course, it has that catchy Wildstreet flair to it, as we've been talking about for the whole album. But what I really like, and I think this is what sets the song apart, and this is what I want to mostly focus on for my take, is that it has some great imagery in it. Like, as they're, it's very descriptive and it's very well written, especially, she's got guns, obviously, with the crowd vocals on there, but even just describing her as well with what she's wearing, what she's doing, leather covers her, the seat, the leather armor, covers the seat, for, the line for it. So that kind of stuff, it's very descriptive. I can kind of see why they went with the video single for Soldier of Love, is because everything was already there, and you just had to, put that into the real world and film it kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I get that. I understand that. But I mean, for me, I think this song, Soldier of Love, is maybe the weaker ones for me on this. It's still on the iPod. I still listen to it. It's not bad in any regard. But to me, it's just kind of mid-tempo-ish. I'm not going to use the word boring. It doesn't get to that stage, but it's kind of like, where are we kind of going with this song? You know what I mean? But I do like you said, the imagery. There is imagery to this song. But for me, though, when you're coming off, want to get it on hard on you, it's just a good song is going to feel like, oh, what's going on here? Kind of when you're coming off, and the ballad as well, for so long. So, but for me, though, Soldier of Love, I mean, it's still a good song. I understand why they went, like you said, probably why they went to do this as the video single. But for me, though, it's just one of those, all right, that's cool. It's not going to make a playlist or anything, but it's in the context of the album, it's not like a dud. It's not a dud. So that's kind of where I'm at with Soldier of Love, but I totally get what you're saying there with the imagery, and I do agree with that.
I think also what also hurts a little bit of it is it's the placement of it. I don't think there's really a good place for it, because the first 3 songs I wouldn't change where they were placed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But since they were so well placed, it's hard, so the songs that that are slightly off, not as you said, not a dud, but it's also what's kind of going on there. The album placement kind of hurts it a little bit.
I agree with that, because when you got an album and you're listening to the whole album, the context and like the fluidity of the album is so important to any album in any genre. So, and that could be a part of it as well.
I think and this is going to segue into the next song. I think, to me, they should have switched Midnight Gypsy with Soldier of Love to give a little break so this is instrumental, if anyone's not familiar. One of my favorite songs to hear live, just because there's no words. So you just take in Wildstreet live, and it's one of my favorite parts of their set. And I think they should have done that. Give a little bit a palate cleanse for the first 3 songs because of how great they were, and then you come back with the album starting with Soldier of Love. That would have been my take of how to do it. But overall, I think the album, the track listing, that would be like my only change for it. But again, to finish up with Midnight Gypsy, it is just freaking phenomenal. And again, this is why you have to see Wildstreet live, because they make an instrumental entertaining. And I know sometimes, I'm not a huge instrumental music guy. I love lyrics. I love, listening to stories and that kind of stuff. But for them to do it so good that it's amazing on the album, amazing live, shows the caliber of Wildstreet.
Right. And I agree. They do always do this song live. And I agree with you. I even think that if they could have switched this, put this at track number 4, and then put the Soldier of Love after that, it would have helped. I think it would have even helped Midnight Gypsy too, because you come to the ballad after Midnight Gypsy, and that's kind of like a weird spot then too. But we'll get to that. But yeah, they do this song live, and I think I wouldn't say I wasn't a fan, because I'm a fan of instrumentals and such like that. I have a whole playlist of instrumentals. So definitely when I seen this live at first, it kind of brought the song to life too. Because I don't think it was on my iPod at the time. And then because Eric Jake also does this. This is like a song that he solely does. So, and that's really cool too. And you see that on full display for the most part, guitar wise and such, when it's live. So that kind of brings another dimension to the song when you're listening to it on the record as well. But yeah, I like the instrumental though. Very good. But like we said, we kind of possibly would change the placement of it to help the 2 songs before and after it. So, but we can move on to the next song if you would like. Yes,
and when we were talking about with the 6th track, which is "Open Up Your Eyes," I think also this song would have benefited from having Midnight Gypsy and Soldier Love changed around. Because to me, if you listen to Soldier Love, then you listen to Open Your Eyes, I think to me it would help with the continuity of the album, because it kind of deals similar with a little bit of similar topics. But what I really liked, it had the crowd vocals on when he says yeah and he says me, and I think to emphasize those, to those the end of the lines, I think was really cool. And again, this song it has that catchiness to it, that Wildstreet style, and again, it's got a very good song storyline in here as well.
Right.
With trying to me, it seems like a relationship that they're not sure where we're going with it, that kind of thing. And they're going to break up, they're going to stay together. Can you see how great I am? Can you see the value of us staying in this relationship? So that kind of stuff was, again, very relatable to anyone who's been in a relationship in that kind of similar scenario. And I think because it's so relatable, I think that is also what makes Wildstreet really cool. It's because they deal with some very real topics, and this is no exception for it with Open Your Eyes.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything that you said about this song. It's a really good ballad. I consider this a ballad as well, along with For So Long. But to me, I mean, these are pretty close. The two ballads on here, they're really close to being. They're both really, really good. I can listen to either one at any time and not skip it or want to skip it. It's just, man, it's something to be said too about writing a ballad, because sometimes it just comes off cheesy and just doesn't work. Even though I love ballads, I love power ballads, there's not too many ballads that I don't like, but at the same time there are ones where it's like, that's just not working. But and you got Wildstreet here on their debut giving us two great ones. So yeah, definitely these two songs, these two ballads are on my ballad playlist. So they get plenty of rotation on my iPod. So, but I agree with you. A great song, great way. But and like we keep saying, possibly would have been a little bit better to change the order. But I don't think it necessarily hurts this song though, like it does so much as Soldier of Love did. The more of in a negative light than this ballad here, Open Up Your Eyes. So
no, I definitely agree. Like and even just standalone, this song is really good, but I definitely understand what you mean by ballads. Obviously the people who can do it right, but then there's kind of some of those ripoffs where they're not really saying anything. It's just kind of a slowed down song for really no reason. And again, with Wildstreet, I said this earlier in our video as well. Eric is he's a very strong songwriter, and that really comes through. And he can transform as Wildstreet evolves. You can even hear the different styles he does, even with Bliss My Heart, where he's got completely different vocals. He's extremely talented. I think that's why Wildstreet has a slightly different sound now.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Very good. Yeah, and not too much. Some people could argue Wildstreet 1 and Wildstreet 2 kind of sound the same, but I could kind of argue it the other way as well. And especially Wildstreet 3 is totally different from Wildstreet 1 and Wildstreet 2. So, but still very to the roots of what Wildstreet is. So, but yeah, no, I agree 100% with what you're saying there about Eric being a very good songwriter. There's not one bad written song, I would say, in the whole catalog. So.
Well, I definitely agree with that, and that's why I'm, Wildstreet 3 is a lot different. We will be covering that in another season coming up, but since it is so different, we'll have a lot to talk about that for sure. But when we talk about Wildstreet 2 in another video as well, I got an interesting take on that as well, and I believe you probably do as well, because you already kind of slightly mentioned that. But before we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, we're going to continue on with this list at number 7 with The Fist of Fury. This song picks it up. We had between Soldier of Love and Open Up Your Eyes, the song, except for Midnight Gypsy, I'll say, because that was definitely, it's an instrumental rock song, but the pace slows down a little bit. So now with The Fist of Fury, they're bringing up the hype, the rock music. They're bringing up the pace, and I think this is where the pacing, I think, for the back half of the album is very well done, because yes, it starts off slower with Open Up Your Eyes, but then it hits you with Fist of Fury. This song, it's got some groove to it. And what is kind of cool, to me, it's like a love scene and like an action movie, because it has that like hard hitting rock music to it, but also it's it's talking about some love, heavy topics, that cool stuff. But they do it so well. And what I really liked was like the 2.5 minute mark. Eric says, "Let me hear it." And to me, that was a cool feature, with his voice and the sound. But then it goes into the killer solo as well. It's got like a little bit of live elements with the album.
Yeah, with the whole album, and this song is no exception too. Like you said, this is a very good deep cut off this album. Like this is a song I sometimes forget about, not because it's bad, but just because you play the other stuff a little bit more. But like even today, I was listening to the song. I'm like, this is almost just as good as anything else on this album, and I never hear anyone talking about this, even other Wildstreet fans. So, but yeah, a very good deep cut. Probably one of my favorite of the deep cuts off this album. So yeah, but I agree with pretty much everything. The chorus is really good in this as well. The solos, but that's to be said about pretty much every song here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Fist of Fury as well.
Yeah, I think it's got a good combination of a lot of different things. But to me, it was just cool. You hear Eric saying, "Let me sing," then it goes into the solo. I think it was something different that wasn't seen in the last couple songs. All right, coming in at number 8 here on Wildstreet 1 is All the Young Dudes. Now, I really like the chorus part. I think this song, again, is extremely catchy. To me, I think this is a very solid song. For me, it was to me, it was a little bit of a weaker song. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It still belongs on this album. But to me, I was kind of thinking, all right, what are we saying here? What are we kind of doing here? Kind of similar with your take on Soldier of Love. It's a slightly weaker song, but it belongs to the album, and it's still a solid rock song.
Right, yeah, and this is a cover, actually, David Bowie's song, yes.
I didn't know that, okay.
Yeah, because...
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, because I agree with you wholeheartedly that, I'm not a fan of this song, whether David Bowie does it, or whether Wildstreet does it, or anyone else does it. Now, I will say Wildstreet does do it better than David Bowie, I think. I would prefer to listen to Wildstreet's version. But to me, the song is just a no-go just from the start. But there is some salvageable moments here on this song. But for me, it's just might have been able to leave it off. And you would have had a really strong 8-track album instead of a 9-track album. But I mean, for people, there's a lot of people that like David Bowie and such. So, I mean, there are probably people that do like this cover. But for me, this is the only song that gets left off on the iPod, So take that for what it is. I mean, it's just a cover at the same time. So, yeah, it's like you said, it is weaker, and you're kind of like, come on, I don't want to end the album on this, So, but yeah, it's just okay. It's just okay. That's if I had to take one track off, it would definitely be this on the album.
I definitely agree with that. I think we're kind of on similar fields with that as well. But since if anyone now, this is not on the digital. This is why you should get physical copies, like how me and Krash do.
Right.
So there is a bonus track for the CDs, which is Soldier Love Acoustic. We don't got too much. Obviously it's an acoustic version of Soldier Love. My only thing that I noticed was I think it highlights Eric's vocals a lot more because there's only the acoustic guitar and to really balance out his vocals. So you really hear Eric pretty much unfiltered how he is live.
Right, and I agree. I would choose to listen to the acoustic version over the original version.
I'm the same way, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with this song. If one is going to be coming on the iPod, it is this acoustic version. So, and that's the one I do have on the iPod. So, yeah, I'm a fan of the acoustic one. But like you said, even if you would put the acoustic in the middle where the original is that kind of a good spot as well? That I don't know. It's like, where would you put that then? And maybe near the end, take All the Young Dudes off and then put that at the end. But I mean, that's a question for another time, I guess, huh?
I think it would be cool to have a roundtable discussion with Eric about all. I know this is like 10-plus-year-old material, so I don't know how keen he would be on it, but it is cool. Like, and this is why I ask, like, if I interview any bands who just released an album, I ask, how'd you put the track listing together? It is. There's so much thought, like, to bands who care. Like, obviously, there's bands if they don't have really much of a theme or too much of a style for them,
or only release digital stuff or that.
Yeah, but for the bands who care and who want to give like the whole kind of fluid where you don't stop listening to this album till it's done. Mm-hmm. There is so much thought process that has to go into a track listing.
I agree 100%. Even stuff that I'm sure most music fans, when they like burn a CD or not like make a CD of all the music they have, or even make a playlist, you're not just throwing random songs on. You are at first, but then when you're ready to finalize it, you switch everything where you want it. What sounds good after this? It doesn't matter what. It could be 100 bands, 100 different songs on there. And you're still, that's how my brain works anyway with my music on iTunes. Like, I'm like, I don't want this song after this one. No, we ain't doing that. It just ruins it. But no, I 100% agree with you. The fluidity of the album is so important, I think.
I know, there's like the Spotify stuff of just releasing singles or EPs and stuff, but to me, I'm still an album person. I will listen to an album, especially if it's a really good one. Like I break up my album, reviews and stuff. I listen to like half of it, then I'll take a break, listen to the other. I didn't do that with Wildstreet. I listened to it from start to finish and made all my notes because it holds your attention during that whole time.
Correct. And I'm the same with you. So very good album here. Very good first album, the debut of Wildstreet. Very good stuff. I love it.
Definitely. I highly recommend. This is a really great Wildstreet started off on the right foot with this album. So again, I highly recommend listen to everything by Wildstreet, but to really get like where they first started and where their style started, I would listen to the first one, of course.
Yes, I agree 100%. It might be my favorite, actually. The more I visit this, because I always used to think maybe number two. And then obviously the third one came out a couple years ago now, or 1 year ago now. But definitely, I do gravitate to the debut more so than anything else at the moment anyway. But yeah, it's just good stuff, especially if you like that sleaziness, the 80s stuff. I obviously we don't want to compare, but just that 80s hair metal, sleaze metal, glam metal, whatever you want to call it, Poison, Def Leppard, all their influences. They wear their influences on their sleeve on this album, and you can totally tell.
I 100% agree with that. But also with that, again, they kind of evolved it a little bit. Like they evolved like the glam metal and hair metal with their album. But also it's cool, and I think they're definitely the first album, and again, their music has evolved. So not right now, I would say, but when they first started out, they were definitely a throwback to that 80s style of music, but modernizing it at the same time.
Right. And like, if anyone remembers back in that time, because that was 2006 was about the time I was getting into like just metal in general. And I remember there was like a newer wave of glam bands coming out from Sweden, like Crash Diet, Dirty Penny, very good bands like that. And Wildstreet is in that group, Veins of Jenna. They were in this same group, and I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I thought this stuff was dead. But it was just that kind of era. It only lasted like a couple years, somewhat strong, at least over here that I could see and such. But yeah, that's kind of a time. It's a little bit of a time capsule for this era, 2006 to 2010-ish, underground stuff. So that's another thing that has a little special place in my heart because it kind of takes me back to my high school days. So yeah, very good album. I have a special place for it.
Oh, for sure. And it's an extremely strong album. But also, you mentioned a few bands who kind of have a similar style. I got to mention, obviously, I think you're very familiar with this band as well, Midnight Devils. And they still have that kind of that like style that, as you said, very prominent in like the late 2000s but they're still carrying that to the now. And actually, I started listening to Midnight Devils, and then I found Wildstreet because of it.
Okay, nice. Definitely Midnight Devils deserves a shout out as well. They're carrying the flag. But yeah, man, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. There's no doubt about that. Very good. I wish I haven't seen Midnight Devils yet, so I
haven't either, actually. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's something our show. I was actually going to see him up in Philly, about 3 months ago with Pretty Boy Floyd on that tour, and it got canceled. I was so bummed. They didn't reschedule it or anything yet. So yeah, I guess.
I hope we both get to see them because I've interviewed Sam twice, but it's like I haven't. They don't really tour, in Indiana anywhere. So I'm like, I guess I guess after road trip, maybe I'll hang out with you and road trip somewhere. I don't know.
Plenty of fun down here, my man. Plenty of fun. Come on out. Let me know.
but Trevor, thank you so much for hanging out with me here. A really great episode breaking down all the tracks here on the first Wildstreet album. Please check out the links for everything Krash Kourse Metal Show in the description of this podcast as well. Trevor, it was a great time hanging out with you. Yes, sir.
Matt, it's always fun hanging out with you and everyone at Super Cool Radio. It's just awesome. It's nice seeing other people like doing the same thing, and there's no ego involved or anything like that. It's just nice. Just have it. We talk about music, what we love. So I want to appreciate you having me on though again, Matt. So very cool. Yeah, guys, just Krash Kourse Metal Show. Check me out. I'll definitely be talking more Wildstreet, talking more metal. That's what we do. So
and living life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But for Trevor Krash Knight of Krash Kourse Metal Show, I'm your host as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.